Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at classes and objects in Java. First thing we're going to do is try to understand what exactly a class means. So a class is what's usually called a blueprint, right? Now, a blueprint is obviously a set of instructions. For example, if I want to build a chair, I can do that if I have a blueprint. I want to build something I can sit on, I can do that if I have a blueprint. It's just the written set of instructions. So maybe I can, in my blueprint, say that my chair would look something like this. And then it would have, insert written matter to explain how to build a chair or what things the chair should constitute of. Now this is what we call the blueprint. And guess what? A class is also the same thing. It's just a blueprint with code. Take a blueprint, you write it in Java, you write it in any programming language, it becomes a class. Now, for 1 second, let's just look at this blueprint. Let's just try to understand what this blueprint has. Any blueprint, it's going to have two things. The first thing are going to be the characteristics. So in this case, what are the characteristics of the chair? It has a color, it has a height, it has certain things, right? The next thing is going to be the methods, or you can also say it's the behaviors, right? What does the chair do? That's the behavior of the chair. So in this case, if I have my chair, my characteristics, I can give it a color, I can give it a height, I can give it a material. These are the characteristics for the chair. Then what are the behaviors? This is what the chair does, right? What is the function of the chair? That is the behavior of the chair. In this case, the function of the chair is just to sit on it, to get some rest. Okay, so any class or any blueprint will consist of characteristics and behaviors. The same thing is seen in a class. So, for example, if I make a class on chairs, I would just make it a class, and in the class it would consist of characteristics, color, height, material, and then the behaviors would be to get some rest. This is a class, it's the same thing as a blueprint, and that's why we also say that a class is a blueprint. Now you must have noticed that I have a rocket over here. That's because we're going to do the same thing with this rocket. What are the characteristics? What are the behaviors with this rocket? So in this case, I can say that the characteristics are, well, the number of people it can carry, maybe that. Or I can just say it's the color of the rocket. And maybe I can just say the height to which it goes. Now you don't need to get confused. The characteristics is what you see. It is a physical characteristic of that certain object or certain thing that you take. Now what are the behaviors of the rocket? Pretty simple. To get you to space, right? Or maybe in this case, let's add a few more behaviors. What are a few more functions is to release satellites, right? So this is what every class consists of: characteristics and behaviors. You understood that a class is basically just a blueprint, but how do you actually go about making a class? So before we get to that, I think what's important is to understand what are objects, because the video is about both classes and objects. Now let's say I'm a person stranded on an island, and the only thing I have is this blueprint of a chair, right? I'm looking at this and I can see, okay, there's a color, there's a height, there's a material. I find wood, I see this image, I build a chair, right? I build this chair. No, that's not nice. Let me just build this chair and get back to you. So I built my chair, right? It's just a small chair. It's 30 centimeters high. It has a color which is orange, or I guess brownish orange, and it's made of wood. Now I am using my blueprint, my characteristics, and I'm giving it those values. I'm saying that my color is orange, I'm saying that my height is 3 meters, and I'm saying that my material is wood, or I can make it any out of any material. In this case, I made it with wood, so I'm saying that the material is wood. And the behavior here is to get some rest. I'm gonna sit on it. I'm gonna enjoy my life and on this sandal island. Now let's say there's another guy on the same island who wants to make this chair. Let's see how that goes. Right, so this other guy on the same island also made a chair. It's 60 centimeters high. It is made of iron and it's obviously gray in color. Now, did he use his brain? No, wait. Did he use a different blueprint? No, he just used the same blueprint. So, what do you notice? You're using the same sheet of paper, i.e., the class, which is the blueprint, to make multiple chairs. And this can go on. I can make hundreds of chairs with this. So would this chair then be the class? No, the class is the blueprint, it's the idea. The chair is the implementation of the idea, isn't it? It's when you use the idea to actually implement it, to make the chair in this case. Now this implementation of the idea is what we call an object, right? I hope you understand that. A class is an idea that I'm using to make multiple and hundreds of objects. In the same way, I used this one chair to make multiple chairs. Now let's do the same thing with the rocket. With the rocket, I can do the exact same thing, right? If I take this rocket, right? Let's say I'm one country. I can change this rocket. I can give it new colors. I can give it new characteristics, right? And I can give it maybe a new behavior as well, which is to go to space and release a satellite. This rocket will not be the same as another rocket. These are all different rockets. These are all different objects of the same class. So the class then would be the blueprint for the rocket. It would be the rocket. And it would consist of what? The characteristics for the rocket, which in this case are the number of people, the color, the height, and it also consists of the behaviors to get you to space and to release the satellites. So basically the class would be the rocket, and in the objects there can be many. One object would maybe a rocket from this company, next one would be a rocket from another company. In this case as well, I have multiple chairs. Maybe this is a chair of mine, this is maybe my chair, and this is a chair of someone else, maybe someone called Teja. Different people can make different objects. So the object here is just an implementation of the class, which is the idea. Now I hope you understand that, because that's very important. That's the basis of what you're going to be learning in the entirety of object-oriented programming. Now what we're going to do is try to look at the syntax. How can I create a class and how can I create an object? Right. So the thing about Java is that you already know all this stuff, right? Every time, what you're doing, you're making a class, right? This class is not exactly a blueprint. It doesn't have to be always a blueprint for a tangible object. This class just allows you to use the main method. Now, what we're going to do is not enter the main method. We're going to exit the main method and we're going to make a class separately, because this is one class and then this is going to be another class. Now, first thing you're gonna need to understand is the main method is the method where all execution starts. Whenever you run your program, it always starts over here. The first line of the main method always starts over here. Now, you can also notice that the main method is also in a class, right? In this case, it's called the classes objects class. Now, this class is the only class which can be public. All the other classes, I should always not use public. I should not use public because the class which contains the main method is the only class that can be public. That's very important to understand. Now what we're going to be doing is create a different class. Now remember what I told you. Don't use public. When you use public, you will get an error. You can see it's clearly an error. So instead what you're going to do is use just the word class. And in this case, I'm going to call my class the rocket class. Okay. And what you're going to do is the same thing that you've done all this time. You're just going to give it the parentheses and end it. The only difference is you're not using public, because there can only be one class which uses the public, which is the class which contains the main method. So in my class Rocket, there are two things, right? It has characteristics, and it obviously has behaviors, right? So what I want to do is I want to explain how you can use these characteristics and behaviors and write them as code in the next video. In this video, I'm just going to show you how to create an object as well. So we created a class, and let's just imagine I wrote a bunch of code, and I created a bunch of characteristics and objects and behaviors. In this case, this is an empty class because it doesn't have anything, but let's just imagine that it does. Now, the funny thing is that you also created objects till now. If you learned how to use the scanner class, remember that's also a class. It's an idea of taking input. And in an object that you're creating, maybe scanner SA equals new scanner. The SA here is an object that allows you to actually take the input. It is the implementation of the class. Now, how would you use the scanner class? You would say scanner SA equals new scanner system.in. In this case, I do not import the util package, so it's an error. So let me just do that. So scanner is equals new scanner system.in. You've known this all your life. The basic syntax that you're doing is that you're writing the name of the class. So scanner is the name of the class. And then you're writing the name of the object. So SA. In that case, maybe the name of the chair could have been Teja. One chair could have been Surya. I'm giving it a name. And then you're going to use the new keyword. Why? Because you're creating a new object. It's not the same thing. It's a new object. So then you're going to say, again, the class name. You're going to give it the brackets, the round brackets, and you can end it as usual with the semicolon. This is the basic syntax. A class, the name of the object, the new keyword, and the class. A few things that you need to know is that here, when you're giving it the class, when you're giving the object, the name of the object, the class, this is what we call declaration, right? And this part, right, when you're actually saying new class, this is when you're creating the object. When you write just this, it is creating, it is making a name, it is writing the name object, it is giving it that class, but you're not making the object, you're not making a chair, you're only writing the name of the chair. Okay, but when you write new class, this is when you're actually creating a class. So in this case, I want to make the object for the class Rocket. I would just say Rocket, and I can give it any name. In this case, let's just say obj equals new, because I want to create a new rocket, and I would end it with the brackets. Right, so this is as simple as it gets. You've learned all this stuff before, you just changing it. You're just learning the different applications that you could have in other concepts. So just remember, class is a blueprint, an object is the implementation of that idea or that blueprint. I hope you like this video, and please do subscribe for more videos. In the next video, I'm going to be going over what are methods, what are variables, which is basically the characteristics and behaviors, and understanding how you can use these characteristics and behaviors in Java. Thank you.